If you join us every Friday night, then you know who we are. I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas, and I'm joined by Ann and Jim Glenn from San Antonio. Ann is our beautiful nutritionist and personal trainer, and Jim is our big money man. And of course, we have Dr. Lee Osler from Washington State, who is a dentist extraordinaire and also the author of both Redox Matters and Healthy Matters, two books that we absolutely love here in ASEA. And we have some special guests, fan favorites that we're bringing back because we have a lot to talk about tonight because of the launch of our new product. So now we have 4 different lines, and we're going to talk about each one individually and how you can bring them all together for optimal health. So we're joined tonight by Dick and Nancy Walker from Spokane, Washington. Nancy is a former dental hygienist, business owner, owned a farm of alpacas and used to have all sorts of alpaca clothing and things. Now she's full-time with ASEA. And her husband, Dick, is an emergency room doctor, internal medicine doctor, also certified double boarded, also certified in wilderness medicine. I can't talk tonight. In wilderness medicine and nutrition, has a master's in nutrition, which is amazing. And also preventative medicine. So just incredibly well-rounded. And also, I love this about him because it's something that I always thought about, but you know, I'm not athletic and I'm pretty lazy, but he actually scaled Mount Everest. So just amazing thing. I just watch the movies and read the books. But without further ado, we're going to bring this dynamic duo on to talk about what they've seen with ASEA. They've shared with so many people, had such great success, and just love hearing from them. So Dick and Nancy, please come on, tell us how you got started in this, what you're seeing, and then we'll wrap it up talking about the 4 different areas where our products fall these days. So thank you so much for joining us.
Great. I'll go first because I think I started first in ASEA. Nancy she thought she was too busy. I knew I was too busy, but to start anyway. I thought to myself, if I don't, it's kind of like on the merry-go-round, you know, you see everybody else reaching for that ring and some make it, some don't. But I thought if I don't reach for this ring, you know, if I don't do it now, I may not ever do it. And I was super impressed, even though, quite frankly, you know, 9 years ago, we didn't have a lot to be impressed by. I had been reading about redox signaling, quite frankly, in my anti-aging literature. I was 64 going on 65. My body didn't really like the idea of climbing mountains so much anymore. And I didn't like it talking back to me and saying I couldn't do something. And so I was looking around for something that would let me stay younger, let me do the things I wanted to do without grumbling about it. And I started to see references to this new performance and anti-aging and, you know, this stuff called redox and redox signaling. I'd never heard about it because we didn't really know about it when I went through medical school or undergrad or anything. So I started looking into it, reading up on it, what little I could find. And then as I'm looking into this, a friend of mine, research physical therapist, says, you know, there's a little company down in Pleasant Grove, Utah, just outside of Salt Lake, that actually has a supplement that they claim is made up of redox signaling molecules. And I said, well, heck, let's go down and see if they know what they're talking about. I barely knew what I was talking about. And, you know, we were really impressed with what they had. Their research seemed to be sound. Their product seemed to be what they said it was, a way to supplement with signaling molecules. And I thought, well, why not try it? And so I brought it home. Nancy and I started taking it. We started talking to other people about it. And before you know it, we had a group started. We were doing little gatherings in our home, and we were starting to see a paycheck come in. And, you know, at the time I was working, you know, I was probably averaging between 50 and 60 hours a week in the emergency room. Nancy was holding down the farm and had a retail business on the farm. And we just didn't have any extra time. But I thought, you know, I've got to fit this in somehow because this is too good to not to engage with. And, you know, when I engage, I try to give it as much as I can. I could have just taken the product and left it at that. But, you know, I knew a whole bunch of people who despite what they were trying, both, you know, through Western medicine and alternatives and whatever, just weren't, you know, getting the kind of health that they wanted. And I knew that this was going to be an answer for a lot of them And I felt that I really had a responsibility to start sharing it with people. It was really more that than the business. But then I quickly realized that the business was maybe an answer for me, because here I was 65. We'd put 4 kids through college. We didn't have a whole lot of money set aside because, as you know, it's kind of expensive to put the kids through college. And it was like, do I retire before I die, or do I figure out something different business wise? And ASEA had the answer there. And within a couple of years, financially, we were much better off. And I started to have options that I didn't have when we first started this business. And, it's just been great. It's gotten better ever since. And then Nancy started going on some of the bonus trips with me, started meeting some of the people, and she says, I gotta get involved with this. And so, year and a half, I don't know, something like that. Nancy gradually started doing more and more, and now she's fully engaged, and we do this together. So I'm going to turn it over to Nancy and let her tell her story.
Well, my story is simple. I was not well, so I couldn't do any more than I was doing. I had 2 retail stores, one online, one brick and mortar store. I was the only person. I did all my advertising, merchandising, everything, buying trips to Peru. I had a yarn business. I had 150 alpacas. Dick and I did the vet work. We did everything. And I was taking care of Dick's mother. I took care of her for 15 years, and I was not that well. And so when Dick said, do you want to do another business? I was already working sometimes 15 hours a day. And I would close my store and then drive to eventually, my mother-in-law was in an assisted living, but I would drive there, take care of her needs, and often I wouldn't get home till 10 o'clock at night, not having eaten dinner. Anyway, I had an epiphany 3 years after Dick was doing the business. I was sitting in my store and waiting for people to come. And I thought, why am I doing all this work? And then I sit here and wait for people to come. And what kind of impact am I going to make when I sell someone an alpaca sweater? They may like it, may keep them warm, but I'm not making the impact that I felt my life was, destined for. I feel, the older you get, the more it's important to make a difference. And so anyway, I thought, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, because I'd done it for 9 years. So I closed my store and started working the business. But it was 3 years. Dick was in for 3 years, and I would say, oh, you're he was on the phone constantly, which is what you do when you build a business. If he wasn't at work, he was on the phone. And I said, geez, give it a rest. On Christmas, he's on the phone. But he called someone who was very ill on Christmas, and they came to our door on Christmas and to get some ASEA. And when they arrived, I never thought they would come. I was like, wow, you must be desperate. Then I felt kind of ashamed that I had chastised, geez, don't call people on Christmas, but this is the biggest gift you could give someone. And that's what I realized. And those 2 things really changed. Something clicked in my brain. And I said, this is more important with the time I have left. So
that's awesome.
There's actually a business tip in there, because if you're having trouble making a list of people you want to reach out to, just get your Christmas list. Because I was opening Christmas cards that day, and lo and behold, we got a card from this guy, and I had forgotten to reach out to him. Mostly, I thought his wife really needed this, and then as it turns out, he really needed it more than his wife did, and it helped both of them tremendously. And boy, I'm glad I took a few minutes off that day and gave him a call, because it changed his life. So what better gift can you give somebody than, the gift of better health?
Oh, for sure. So I wanted to say, Nancy, you all can hear me, right? I have this mic on, but I don't know if it's on. I assume it is.
On good.
So I'm noticing how beautiful your hair is, and long and healthy. So I'm sure the redox signaling has played an impact on our care of our hair is important. And of course, your skin, you're looking younger. So I know you rave about our skincare, but I know we'll talk about that in a little bit. I was thinking about the business that you did before. I remember when you were at a meeting, we were new. So I remember you sharing about starting to be full-time together like we are. And, but your business, brick and mortar, I mean, there probably was a lot of headaches along the way too. Probably a lot of details outside of the hours that you were open that you had to keep that running, I imagine. So
Yeah.
somebody that's doing that kind of business compared to this, maybe you could just tip on, doing the business from home and having the luxury to go off and do what y'all want. Now you have this great, awesome bike. Isn't it a new bike that you got? Yeah. So, I mean, you can't do that if you're running a store. So maybe you can just share how this has allowed y'all freedom to do stuff together and what a difference that makes.
And Nancy,
Right.
while you're talking about that, do you mind kind of sharing with us why you picked that business? What was it that you were looking for? Did you just have a love of alpacas and alpaca sweaters? How did you get into that particular business? And what were you hoping it would do for you in your life?
Well, let me address Anne's question first. Having a business is very difficult unless you already have a lot of money to hire everyone else to do it. And I didn't have an accountant, so I had to learn I had helpers on the farm, Dick and I did. I had to learn how to do the 1099s. And then I tried to get employees in my store. And I hired a young woman one time, I'll never forget. It was my former husband's, the day of his funeral. And so I had this young woman work, and I stopped down there on my way to take my children to the funeral. And she wouldn't get off the phone. And I was like, hello, like I'm the one that pays you. I was so upset anyway. And she was just talking away, and she just kind of told me to hang on. And anyway, that was my experience I had another experience with an employee that didn't work out. But the taxes that you have to, the L&I taxes, the local taxes, it was a nightmare. And so I had, this was my dream, Maureen, in answer to your question. I did develop a deep kinship with these animals. I learned so much from them over 20 years. I worked every single day, 365 days a year. Yes, you make Thanksgiving dinner, but at some point you have to get your farm clothes on and go do the chores and feed the animals and take care of all their needs. But so it was like, and then I went to Peru, and I really had a love for those people. And I learned all about the yarn. I learned how to sort all my fiber and how, it was a big job, but I really did love it. And so I had high hopes for developing a business, but at some point, and I had a pretty good business, but you either have to go big and get employees, or you can never go big. And I was at that point. I had customers on my online store from Minnesota and some other places. So I was at a threshold that I just decided I didn't have it in me to manage employees and hire an accountant, hire a manager. I didn't have it in me. And then I thought, what is it going to lead to? And this personal satisfaction of making a difference for me was more of an attraction than the headache of, having a business with employees. So
Yeah.
I just decided there was no comparison after a while.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure you encourage people that are, they're thinking of step of faith and trying this. We recommend people start part-time. We kind of started full-time a little too soon. We didn't plan ahead real well on embarking in it, but our heart was so much with ASEA. We felt the urging to leave corporate America, and we knew what that life is like. And I'm sure you were wanting that same passion Dick had. And then now y'all do everything together. So I'm sure that's been a blessing to be with grandchildren and schedule your own day and go work out when you want to. And of course, the lives you touch, right?
So
Yeah.
let's back up a little bit. What are we talking about, Dick? What's this technology? Why are people here? Why do we do this show every Friday night? You do a show on Saturday, the first Saturday of the month, correct? Dr.
I
Walker?
do. Yep. Mhm.
Why are we doing this? I've got a text from someone that we got a referral from someone, and this person, well, my son-in-law is definitely not interested in trying anything new. It's his decision. My daughter, and then I have a response coming back to her, and she goes, well, my daughter did the research. She's a nurse and pretty much up on new things. People think they know it all.
Yeah.
Doctor, how would you talk to someone new that's listening now? Why should they listen and look into this and give redox signaling molecules and now everything else that we have? Why should they look at this?
Well, a lot of people that come to us, even after, this product's been out there for 12 going on 13 years, are people who are sort of at the end of their rope. Either they've tried everything and it's not working, or they've tried several things and now they have additional problems based on the medicines that they've had, or problems with, surgical procedures or whatever. But they come to us because they're at least somewhat, maybe not desperate, maybe that's too strong of a word, but they're at a point where there isn't a lot of other options for them. And what I tell people is, hey, we've got a technology that very few people even to this day know about. There's more people being born every year than we have a chance to introduce it to. There's so many people that have never heard about this, but just because it's not a prescription doesn't mean that it's not a very valid and very efficacious technology. And if you're looking for a safe, effective alternative that I'm pretty convinced is going to help you, and we'll know pretty quick if you're willing to give it a try. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you try this? It's safe. It works for most people. Like, you can't guarantee when it's going to kick in. You can't guarantee exactly what their first responses are going to be. But as Lee and I know quite profoundly, that redox signaling and communication between your cells is really the foundation of health. If your cells can't perform the duty that they're supposed to perform, or if they're doing something they're not supposed to do, these molecules are somehow involved in that. And just being able to supplement and supply our body with some additional communication molecules can oftentimes make a huge difference. Sometimes life and death sorts of results people are having. And I noticed that pretty quickly because I started recommending it to people who were in that situation. And anybody anybody, but especially a physician that's been in practice for a while, we all have a list of, I wouldn't call them failures, but they're just people who we haven't been able to help to the degree that they would like to be helped. Even though we've recommended everything under the sun and we've sent them to every specialist known to man, and they still aren't really moving forward. And a lot of times this can supply the ingredient that their cells can use to turn things around. This isn't a magic bullet. What these molecules do is give your cells a tool that they can use to get things in order. Every problem that you have, every symptom that you have, every disease that you have is caused by one of two things: either cells that aren't doing what they were designed to do, or cells that are doing something that they have no business doing. And that's all about cellular communication. It's all about following instructions, and the instructions are generally in our genetics. But these are the molecules that make everything work. These are the molecules that tell your cell how to do things. That they're the command and control center. They're the like Lee talks so much about, when there's a problem, they're the adaptogen. They're the entity that our cells use to kind of bring things back to the middle and start over again. So that's why this is such an important technology for people to know about.
So again, you guys were all medical, you get all that. But here I am, a layman, and I look at the bottle. And Dr. Osler, it says it's a dietary supplement. And then I flip it over to the back. I'm not going to read the small print. I immediately go to the ingredients, and it says it's salt water. And you were one of those people where your wife was at a point where she needed help. And that's the only reason you heard about this, correct, Dr. Osler?
Yes, it is. 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, we were sitting in her physician's office, kind of complaining that she was plateauing. This is after 3.5 decades of some pretty tough sledding with complex health issues. And I can remember he looked at us and just told us to get some redox signaling molecules. At the time, he wasn't really involved. He just heard about it from a neighbor. But I think he was kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel with her. And later he kind of admitted I wasn't quite sure where to go with her. So I said, "What are those?" And he goes, "Just go get some." And that was the only direction I had. I think it had been a month or two later, he would have been a little more helpful, but he was really quite new in his understanding as well. So the bottom line is we did, and it was for her, it was just almost immediate. It was within about 48 hours, there was some really substantial improvements, and it really caught my attention. And so, for me, that's when I'm kind of intense in my brain. I have to know mechanisms of action and how electrons move around. And so I could not get satisfaction anywhere understanding what this was about. And so I just did my own research and dove in the deep end on that side. But, that everything that Dick was just saying, that for those who are just coming in at this and hearing this maybe for the first, if not 10th time, what we're really illustrating is the mechanism that the body uses, that the cell uses to identify when it's under stress. Just the fact of burning glucose, just of metabolizing energy and creating energy in the cell creates molecules that can be destructive, but at the same time, they're very helpful. They're dually utilized in the cell to activate these pathway genes that help us respond to the stress. And basically, when you look at that bottle and it says, saline as an ingredient, salt and water, that's because it's hard to explain reactive oxygen species to people. It gets kind of deep when you have to go there. But this whole concept is how is the cell responsive? And that is the new category. When we talk about this being as a new category, that's really the essence of why this is without competition and why this is a new category, is because this is the way that the cell natively uses to respond. Everything else in nutrition, and this isn't to disrespect nutrition, even the new products that we can talk about, nutrition is not responsive. It just top loads into the body. It just, if we have it, we use it. And if we don't, we're in a deficit. But redox signaling molecules is a different animal than redox molecules. It's that responsiveness ability that makes this different than anything else out there that plays in this redox landscape. And I think sometimes that's an important nuance to help people understand, is that we're talking about responsiveness. It's how do we respond? How do we adapt to stress? And that's a key survival tactic that's built in to our cells.
Awesome. And you also quote that it's scientifically impossible to not work. So you say that because it's native to the body, right? I mean, it has to work, but we can't say how long. 90%, right? See a change in 90 days. So people need to give time to let the 75 trillion plus cells regenerate, correct?
Well, I think we need to even be careful there, because I maintain that it works 100% of the time. But most of us come at this with this paradigm, with this idea that to work, I have to feel it. I have to notice something. It has to be, demonstrable in some manner, just as if you took some pain medicine, you would expect it to work by making your pain go down. Well, this is an apples oranges conversation, because redox signaling you can't always feel it. This is about how cells function. And so we have to be really careful there. It works 100% of the time, but I challenge people to say, well, can you feel vitamin C work? Can you feel your vitamins work? Can you feel your hair grow? There are things going on that are so subtle we can't feel them. However, very often we can, and we do, because of what Dick was saying, is when the cell starts working right, then everything downstream from that starts to fly right. Because this is coming from the most fundamental, foundational, upstream, universal, place in human biology, actually all biology, plant, botany, yeast, bacteria, protozoa, all of these cells have the same functionality to it.
So,
Yeah, excellent.
Maureen, what did you think of this when it was brought to you? Again, a dietary supplement made from salt water and has all these glorious things. I mean, you also had a serious issue in your family that you were looking for something to help. Was that your primary driver? You're muted.
We got to read your lips.
Yeah, it was. I have to be honest. That was 9 years ago. When I heard that it was made from salt water, I thought it was ridiculous, quite honestly. And I remember saying to Terry Latham, my sponsor, I live on an island. We're surrounded by salt water. I don't really need to pay for it. And I was like, I can't imagine that this is going to do anything. But I was not familiar with redox signaling molecules. I went to medical school a long time ago. That was not verbiage that we used. If somebody had talked to me about reductants and oxidants, I may have been able to, follow along, or, if they had said we're back to the Krebs cycle, I would have probably hung up the phone and run away. But it was interesting when I looked into it, as a critical thinker back then, we didn't have a lot. All we had was some studies by Dr. David Neiman. He's the head of the Human Performance Lab at Appalachian State, runs tests on athletes with different athletic performance products. And so he was showing this, and my husband, if you've heard the story before, had a big health issue, and it affected his breathing and his oxygenation. And so I'm watching these videos on the studies that he did that showed that athletes could run further, faster, longer, and it increased things like ventilatory threshold and VO2 max. And I was like, well, it must have something to do with oxygenation. And I thought, well, that's his problem. It's 100% non-toxic. It can't hurt him, might help him. What do we have to lose? Nothing. Right. And, back then we didn't have any other studies. We didn't know what was in here. So it was a leap of faith. I did not understand redox signaling, but I went to PubMed. There at that time were 6,500 references to it. And I was like, okay, it's real. I remember, you guys have probably heard the story where I was telling my sister that Latham had told me about this crazy stuff called redox molecules. I've never heard of it. My period of arrogance and ignorance. And my sister said, well, I've heard of it. And I was like, you have not heard of it. She's not a scientist or a doctor, but she is a medical editor at my medical school, the Medical University of South Carolina. And they had just gotten a $10.5 million COBRA NIH grant to study redox signaling in the cardiovascular system, neurodegenerative, orthopedic, aging, diabetes, cancer, you name it. They were studying the effects of redox signaling molecules in the body on these different systems. And I was like, wow, here Latham, the computer guy, has heard of it. My sister, the medical editor, and I had never heard of it. So of course that forced me to do a deep dive. And that's when I really got into the PubMed. But for me, it was like, okay, do they exist? Evidently they did. Are they actually in this bottle? That was a little bit of a leap of faith. Now every bottle, every batch is certified by Bioagilytics out of North Carolina that actually measures what we call the redox potential. That's kind of like the difference between the positive and negative in a battery, right? That's the word for it. It doesn't mean that there possibly is redox in here. There absolutely is redox in here. And then the question was, does it work does what comes out of this bottle work the same way as the molecules that are made in our body? Well, we have studies now, the TART lab study that shows that when you take this, 100% of the participants had an increase in the transcription of different genes that affected 5 different areas: cardiovascular, GI system, immune status, inflammation in the body, and hormone modulation, including insulin signaling, excuse me, thyroid, circadian rhythm, serotonin, and a number of other things. So yes, it obviously, and when they stopped it, even just as important, when they stopped it, 100% of them went to baseline. So obviously they're having a very positive effect on the people who are taking it. And, you know, when I was listening to it and what you were saying about, does it work? It always works. And, you know, do you feel vitamin C? You know, do you have sunshine, you know, spraying out of your pores? It's kind of like gravity, right? We all know about gravity. When you're walking on the beach, you don't really think about gravity. When you fall off of a bridge, you're thinking a lot about gravity. Kind of the same thing. You know, if you don't really need the molecules, you've got a good surplus of them, a good balance, hey, things may be going great, but it's when things are out of balance or you have a deficit that you really notice, you know, that maybe you need it. So just an interesting analogy.
So, Dick, what was it like with you back in the beginning, believing all of that? I mean, were you, because you're, I guess, more of a different doctor, it really seems like, in a good way. You're more open-minded to new technologies with you having your master's in nutrition. At that time, it may not have been as common. So were you just more open-minded to the possibilities that there's something out there that could be this massive, that this is, it's on such a large scale, it's really unimaginable what this can do to the world?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I would say that that I was a platinum or a diamond before my belief was 100%. I kept waiting for something to happen to kind of burst this bubble because it was working for everybody pretty much that I recommended it to. But you know, I remember I ran into Sean Burke early on. He's an athlete and he was 52, I think it was, and had all these endurance events under his belt, but he was starting to slow down. And I sat down talking to him, and he said, "Man, I went to a booth that we have a yearly event here called Bloomsday. It's a 10K run, and somebody had put up a booth. I don't know if it was Denny or what, but he saw this booth, and he, as a leap of faith, he started taking ASEA. He said, you know, I'm setting records again. So one of the things I did early on is I went into his gym, his gym and rehab facility, and I said, let's test this out on a treadmill. At that time, both of us had been on it for a while, so we both went off it for 2 weeks, and we tested. What we were doing was just testing our heart rate at different levels of exertion on the treadmill. So it was kind of scientific, you know. It wasn't, you know, I mean, it wasn't 100%, you know, like a university might have run it, but we were looking at heart rate ranges at different levels of exertion. And for both of us, our hearts were doing the same thing with a whole lot fewer beats when we went back on the ASEA. And we're both thinking, boy, there's something to what Neiman was looking at. There's something to this performance enhancement, because if you can do the same amount of work and your heart, you know, can beat, you know, 20-30% less times a minute and still do that, that means it's using oxygen a lot more efficiently. So we sort of proved it out that way. Nancy had some of this sitting in a box in the office for a couple of months. And I didn't really have any idea what it was. I took a swig of it. Tastes terrible, I thought at the time. But I didn't know redox then, but I was starting to learn about redox. And when I realized that kind of funky tasting stuff in the bottle was what I actually thought, you know, might help my performance. And then I talked to and then Sean got involved and everything. So it was really sort of a fact-finding mission, because there wasn't a lot of, you know, I know a PubMed search back then that I did, I think turned up between 600 and 700 references. And now it turns up thousands, you know, of references, 70 to 100, depending on what you search for, over 100,000 references now. So there's been an explosion of information. Mostly wasn't there when Maureen and I took a look at it, but I think I'm maybe a little more open-minded than some physicians are, partly because of my training and stuff, but partly as an ER doc, you got to be open-minded, because when you're in the ER and somebody's trying to die in front of you, you'll try just damn near anything if somebody says, maybe this will work. And so 100% safe, why not try it? What the heck you have to lose? So you spend a little money on this stuff, and maybe it doesn't do what you're wanting it to do, but it always works if you're patient enough. If you find the right dose that works for you and you give it long enough and you take it regularly, like Lee says, it always works. From the first swallow that you take, your body is using these molecules, unless you're in that minority of people who are in total redox balance and have plenty of molecules and aren't challenged at all. It always works. It always helps restore that redox homeostasis, that redox balance. It's so important.
But
And
do you
Nancy,
remember what you said to me after Jerry White left our house when he introduced us? He goes, look, one of us is going to have to fly down to the headquarters and see if this is real. And either you or me. And I said, well, they could tell me anything, I'm not a scientist. And I'd come home and say, oh yeah, it's real. So it's going to have to be you. So he took time off work and flew down there and met with Vertus Norton and the scientists. And he came home and he said, well, I really didn't expect it, but yeah, this is real. And then subsequent to that, he tested it at Sean's gym and he read all about it, kept testing it. And then I got better. I mean, that was one of I'd suffered for 35 years, not feeling great, mental fog, chronically tired. And it was working for me. Then a couple
I even tested on the alpacas. Remember, we had a couple of baby alpacas that
it worked on them. Yeah. We saved many, Dick saved many. Not many, but when you have a lot of births, we had 150 animals. When you have a lot of babies born, you have problems. You have what they call dystocias, they're not in the right position, takes too long to get them out, they struggle. And they have to get up and nurse right away or they're going to die. And so then we would just give them ASEA and they'd be like,
they'd perk right up.
They'd be laying on the ground and I'd be like, oh my God, we're going to lose him. And then Dick would give him ASEA and he'd pop up and start nursing.
Awesome. That's so neat.
So what this company is doing in the last couple of years is really fascinating. We only have 20 minutes left. They brought out the facial care system that got revised. Now we have the Via Nutrition. And Dr. Walker, and then we have now the cell performance. But can you focus on the nutrition? Because it seems like we are coming out with everything to give the body back what the body needs to do the work to take care of you. How big of a missing block is the current nutrition, frankly, all over the world?
Now, are you talking about the Via line or the new cell performance line?
No, the Via line.
First, yeah.
First.
Well, the Via line is important, and I think we'll probably see more and more products add to that over time, because there are a lot of other key nutritional ingredients that our body can use if it needs them to improve performance, improve overall health. Certainly the omega fatty acids are a big piece of that. And we've got a great omega product. That's important for a number of aspects of our health, cardiac health, especially brain health. It's not all fats are bad. Some fats will make you fat, but some fats are essential. And the omega fats are super, super important for overall health. The source is a great way to get basic nutritional ingredients in a very healthy, very safe way, and it's very appropriately named, because when you're looking at a foundational and I don't want to use the word multivitamin, because that would be doing source a huge disfavor. But when you're looking for something that can give you a foundational nutritional supplement, so that you don't have to worry so much, did that meal I just ate give me what I need to build a healthy body, to replace cells, that sort of thing. The source is really good because it's sourced from very reliable ingredients. so that you don't have to worry about any contamination, pesticides, herbicides, any of that kind of stuff that can find its way into nutritional supplements if the company that puts them together isn't careful. And so very, very excellent product. And then we have Life Max, which has some really cool ingredients. I mean, if you're up on nutritional supplements, there are some mushroom type things that are important that most people would, and these aren't mushrooms you'd buy at the grocery store to put in your stir fry. These are weird looking mushrooms sometimes that grow on logs and stuff like that, but they have certain phyto plant-based nutrition molecules in them that are very beneficial for our health, and ASEA has put in some very interesting ones into those. I haven't done a presentation on those forever, but that's we've got great nutritional products. We don't have everything that you might want to take, but I suspect that ASEA will start adding to that line because we are a cellular health company, and cellular health, the foundation of cellular health that sort of makes everything click and work, is the redox signaling product. As Lee was saying, if you don't have that, then forget about everything else. But we do need good, sound building blocks. If you're going to build a cell, you need the right ingredients. If you're going to repair a cell, you need the right ingredients to bring about that repair. And now we have a whole new class of products in our cell performance that actually focuses on certain areas. Remember I said, cells are supposed to do certain things. Now we're starting to get a line of products that can tweak that and address certain areas of cell performance that the cell is fully capable of, but sometimes we have to kind of give it a little bit of a boost or talk to it a little bit. And the way you talk to cells is with molecules, is with nutritional molecules and phytonutrients, plant-based nutrients. So but it's much better to talk to your cells that way than with drugs.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty of the nutrition, it's 100% absorption. So people are getting, what the body needs. So you're not going to get that in synthetics or many things that are out there. I mean, lion's mane, one of our ingredients, is exceptional. If you study it at all, you'll see all the benefits. And of course, slippery elm is incredible to have for the gut. But I mean, I'm loving the cell performance because it as we learned at conference, it addresses the pathways and it allows you to replenish what in the middle of the day you were lacking. Maybe you did your redox in the morning, but midday you need mind, or some people need energy. And so here now it addresses in an extremely natural way, tastes good. And the people watching, if you have not tried it, you definitely need to get a box, check it out. We've been loving it ever since we got to sample it. And we're seeing personal immediate benefit. We saw it, right away when we tried it. My favorite's Mind. Jim has been able to lose 15 pounds in the first 3 weeks just by incorporating, I believe it's the energy and the mood are helping him. And so it's so super exciting to have now this whole package of, you got redox signaling, and then the Renew came, and then of course our skincare Via line came. That was exciting. And now we got this that addresses every age group, and it's simple. It's simple to share. You can share it with anybody, your plumber, your hairdresser. You don't have to educate. You just say, what's your sleep like? Oh, not so good. Well, how about you check out mood? Or the other two, of course, if they mention no energy, not so good. Or so are you going to say?
Nancy, can you real quick cover the new upgrade, and maybe you and Maureen kind of bounce back and forth with the amazing facial care? I'm using it. I love it. I'm still threatening to do a short usage video that I'll do showing a guy doing it. But it's rather amazing. And people that say they don't want a prettier, younger looking face are nuts. But this really is a great compliment, right, to everything else that we're doing,
Of course.
Nancy?
Yes. And Maureen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been looking into it, and it's a very well thought out, very well researched, And what we have is, it's very different. What we had before was very good. And of course, we have the Renew 28 still, which helps with redox homeostasis in the skin cells. But what I'm learning about aging, so they say our Renew Advanced is for 35 and older, although it's totally safe and great for younger skin too. The younger you start taking care of your skin, the better you're going to look when you're my age.
Yeah.
But women of a certain age and postmenopausal women, your skin can age very quickly. And the reason for that are two things. You know, you get chronologically older, you have a harder time you have dyshomeostasis with your redox. You lose your ability to fight oxidative stress as you age in your skin cells and in your body. So you have that, but you also, when you don't cycle anymore, you have an excess of iron, and there's something called labile iron. Well, that in your cells make you more susceptible to aging faster when you're exposed to photo damage, or you're exposed to air, just oxygen, and UVA light, which is 95% of the light you get from the sun. You go outside, you're getting it. Well, that will damage down into the layers, deep layers in your skin. But all the ingredients that they have put into the new Renew Advanced will counteract that. Will go like it's kind of weird, but I noticed that my skin is different, but I notice it on a Zoom, but I notice it with Maureen. I notice it with you guys. I mean, I notice it and you think, okay, I can't put my finger on it. Well, I think it's because your cells way down deep are getting repaired and younger. And so it allows your skin cells to be in homeostasis rather than just be getting damaged all the time. And there is some photoprotectiveness in it's not necessarily a sunscreen, but these ingredients are photoprotective, so that when you walk out your door, even if you sit by a window and you get light and oxygen, okay, you're going to get oxygen every minute of every day. That damages your skin. It's amazing. And so as you age, then you get thinning skin, wrinkles, you get photo spots, all those things that just happen. I mean, you're going to get them. You live long enough, you're going to get them. Well, the ingredients in the Renew Advanced counteracts that, fixes it, brings the iron and the redox into homeostasis so that your skin does not age inappropriately.
Yeah. My favorite's toner. Maybe we can talk about that. And the
Mine
fact that it has
too.
microbiome in it, so you're splashing it on, you're protecting the skin barrier, you're locking in moisture. I mean,
and a guy
we haven't had that.
And a guy using toner sounds absolutely ludicrous, but I love it.
I watch him do it. The whole it's so good.
Jack, are you using it?
He better be. Hey, I got to tell you, I heard from Bill Peary and Tom Beasley, Chuck Tyndall. There's a whole group of them all using the skincare. So you know what? We have to have a men's night.
Absolutely. We'll get Beasley to come on here, ex-Super Bowl champ. Hey, real quick, Dr. Osler.
Oh, dear.
Can we talk about this redox ohm? And you love talking about the doctor within. Life revolves around redox, correct?
It revolves around the movement of electrons, which by definition is reduction oxidation. That's redox.
So
the answer was yes.
Yeah. Well,
in a word, yes.
Yes, and easy.
Okay, so this is the doctor within, adding more to the doctor within, so the doctor within can do the repair work. But again, everything else that we do to the body is also important. So you can't just drink it and apply the gel and have all the nutraceuticals and everything and expect everything to be perfect. You still have to what? And that's kind of why you wrote your new book, right?
Healthy lifestyle.
It is. It's about the redox lifestyle. We've gone through in the first 2 or 3 chapters of that book, talk about the deconstruction of the redox nutritional lifestyle, where in the last few decades, we've been put upon by the bigs, I call them the big pharma, big media, big food, and so forth. And it's really, you have to make an effort these days to not participate in those dietary mannerisms that we are in. We get on the advertising and in the supermarket all the time. You have to kind of go out of your way to understand the rules of the cell, because that is where the inner doctor lives. And when we treat it right, it will do what it's supposed to, because that's the way it's programmed. That is the whole concept of the redox landscape. And it's an interesting idea that, the question is, why does exercise and fasting and good nutrition and stress reduction and good sleep and so forth, why are those healthy? Because everybody comes at it and says, well, I don't need this because, I have a good lifestyle. And it's like, well, your good lifestyle plays on these redox pathways. That's why they activate these genes and these pathways, so that you can be more responsive. And what we come along with is we have a biohack that provides the same signaling molecules. Again, I make the distinction. These aren't just redox active molecules. These are redox signaling molecules. And that's what activates and replenishes the cell with the ability to respond in the way it is. I like some of these new, we can flip the switch to the cell performance line. For example, Redox Mind, which is my favorite one, has NMN in it. Nicotinamide mononucleotide. That is a precursor for NAD, which is a redox coupling molecule that we use in the mitochondria to make energy. And that's what activates the cellular renewal. We talk about, how our cells can renew themselves. Well, that is another avenue to activate these redox pathways. And so we come at it from all kinds of angles. But yeah, it's about making the cell do what it's supposed to do.
Dr. Walker.
That's great.
Why do younger people need to listen to what we're talking about? I remember asking you in the past that men especially are the worst. Did you ever see any men come into the ER with problems with several things? And if you would have asked them the day before, how healthy are they? Oh, we're doing wonderful. Can you speak to the people that go, oh, well, I'm healthy? Or even, why are younger people also starting to battle serious health issues? Why?
Yeah, there's no simple answer to that. What I will say is that it has to do with our environment. And I mean, total environment, not just the air we breathe and the water that we drink, but the stress levels that we have, the lifestyle that we live. I mean, human beings are living in a much, much different environment than we were even 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, the stress levels, the emotional stress, the physical stress is quickly changing. And if we don't facilitate our body's ability to adapt, and Lee's talked about this, at the cellular level, if we don't teach ourselves and give ourselves, if we don't teach ourselves to be better at adapting, and we don't give it the tools to adapt to changes in all aspects of their environment, they're just going to fall further and further behind in their health. And that's what's happening. I mean, we are seeing what we used to call chronic degenerative diseases occurring at much, much younger ages than we used to. I mean, when I went through medical school and you saw somebody with type 2 diabetes, which is the most common type, they were over 50 years old. You just didn't even have to look at the chart. You just knew it because it was a disease of aging. We now see that in adolescence. And that's really related almost 100% to diet. And so many of the diseases that we see are occurring at younger and younger ages because of changes in diet, changes in sleep habits, changes in stress, lack of exercise, poor lifestyle choices, all different kinds of things that are, cumulatively causing people to age more quickly, get chronic diseases much more quickly than they used to, which is really sad because all of that is 100% preventable with lifestyle, with quite frankly, with this supplement can help in a great deal. But, if people adopt the kind of lifestyle issues that Lee talks about in our book, that many people advocate, you don't have to get these diseases. And it may be hard to hear that your choices, if you're out there and you're suffering, that to a significant degree anyway, what you've gotten yourself into is a consequence of things that you've done or not done, but they're reversible to a large extent. If you start doing the right thing, and I'm not, 20 years ago, doing the right thing was quit smoking, right? Well, that's just stopping a bad habit. That only gets you so far. You have to not only stop the bad habits, but you have to start the good ones. And I can tell you, if you do that, your life is going to be much, much better. Your health is going to be significantly better.
Well, Dick, where I was 7 years ago, I had gained a lot of weight. I'm 6'6". I had back issues. I've had, 10 back surgeries. I had a stimulator put in. I was addicted to the pain pills. But when my best friend came over and shared this with me, it gave me hope. Because I honestly didn't have any, and not just for my health, but it turned out also for my financial outlook on life. But a lot of people need this. Absolutely. And it just breaks my heart that people just, it's one of those pyramid scammy things. It's one of those things. Oh my gosh, I went to Google and Google said it's silly salt water. But that's why we do this show, is to be able to help educate people, to pay it forward. What would you say to that skeptic out there, Dick or Nancy? What would you say to them?
Well, skepticism is a protective mechanism. It's when that people get cynical about it and aren't willing to try something new when it comes along. But I would just say, try it. I mean, what have you got to lose? It's non-toxic. There's no downside. There's no risk. Yeah, it costs a little bit of money. But let me ask you, if this gave you an answer, a solution to your issues, would you be thankful for it? Because it's very likely that it's going to help you. And it does provide that hope for people who are looking for something. And they've just got to get over that skepticism and try it.
So Nancy, where you were drinking a certain amount, you were not seeing the results, then you drank more. Are you kind of glad that Dick started this?
Yeah.
9 years ago?
Oh, yeah. I mean, within a couple of weeks, I had some dramatic improvements. My brain fog went away. I got energy. I don't know if you've heard the story. 2 weeks into it, I stripped all the logs on the inside of our 3-story log home, getting them ready to be stained. I mean, it was something I put off for 14 years. But wow. I had energy again. The only thing that didn't disappear right away was my discomfort in my joints and muscles. That is when I thought, well, this doesn't work for the kind of pain that I have. And then Dick was one of the first people to say, to get on the bandwagon about increasing your dose. And so I did. And Dr. Samuelson too said, you got to increase your dose to flood your cells to get back into redox balance, homeostasis. So I did that for a couple of weeks, 16 ounces a day. And I woke up one morning, I had no discomfort. But the interesting thing about it, and I couldn't even remember what life was like having no discomfort, because I took ibuprofen almost every day. But the interesting thing is I was flexible for the first time in my life. Even when I was a kid, I couldn't wash my hair like in the kitchen sink because I couldn't bend my neck that much.
Oh, wow.
And I was so stiff. I couldn't do yoga. I would try. I'd go to yoga class. I would sit there and cry, and then I'd roll up my mat and leave. But I was flexible. And I thought, how could that be? It's like somebody remade me overnight, And it was working all the time. But, that's the whole thing about what Lee was saying. It works all the time, 100% from the first dose, but you sometimes don't notice till you have a huge dramatic effect like that.
If a little is good, a lot is better.
So Maureen, how thankful are you?
You know, I've always said if the only thing this did was give me my husband back, you know, that would have been enough. But now that I've seen my own before and after pictures, I am incredibly thankful for these products. And Nancy, I'm sitting here looking at you and I'm just amazed at how absolutely drop dead gorgeous you are, you know, and you always have been, but you know, I've known you now, what, for 10 years, and you look younger now. And I think I do too.
You
And
do.
Oh, you definitely, I'll never forget the first time I met you. And
look
you
like
look
a hag. Yeah.
No,
nothing simple. Well, you were like all of us, way overworked, stressed, you know, and not, you know, it's not like life is now, you know, so much better in every way. Not only do we look better, we feel better. We're
Exactly.
looking younger, but that's because we are recovering from oxidative stress that happens. And by the way, you know, when you talk about young people, let's not forget the average age in that Torrey lab study was 35.
that's right.
Already at 35, they found signs of aging, closing genetic pathways. And whoever thought, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's not forget about the business opportunity, because for young people, probably the biggest stressor in their life is their job or lack thereof, or they're stuck in a job or you know, profession that they don't like, and they can't really see a way out. And you know, the business opportunity for this, I mean, it gave me my life back. I can't remember, before I got into the ASEA business, I can't remember being able to spend a whole holiday with my family. I might get one day, or I might get 12 hours, and then I'd have to work the other 12 hours. But it really wasn't until I started building this business that I could see light at the end of the tunnel. I was making good money, but I was paying a price in it, in terms of
Right.
freedom of not being able to do stuff. And you know, if you want both, you know, great income and great flexibility and freedom, this business model is the only answer that I'm aware of.
Yes.
So-
And the young people are, at least what I've read, don't want to work for a boss. They want to have time
Control.
freedom, and they want to not have to clock in and out, and they want to have the ability to build their future. And we're all seeing the gig economy, so we know that some of them are juggling two jobs. But if they could look at this this business model and realize the potential, I mean, the sky could be the limit. So just decide to look.
yeah, we're at the end. Go ahead, Dick, wrap it up.
Yeah, what other business could you do? You know, if you like living on the beach, you can do this from your cell phone, living on the beach, and never have to have an office. You know, you don't need a car. All you need is a smartphone, and I guess you could maybe even get by without that. But I think you need a phone or a lap, you know, some kind of a device to interact with the internet, interact with the company that way. But you don't need much.
That's
And
right.
if you've got ambition and desire, you can build a successful ASEA business, because ASEA does all the rest, and the technology is to die for. So,
Well, let's not
right,
forget about the
right.
retired people real quick. Our life would be very different in retirement than if we didn't have ASEA. And there's a lot of retired people out there. There's a lot of people still working at 70 and 80 because they cannot retire.
Yeah.
And if Dick had not started this business before he came home from work one day and said, "I'm not going back," I'm like, all of a sudden, like, you just quit.
So Maureen, how thankful are you, Triple Diamond, Big Dog Maureen? I mean, is it not true, Maureen, that the more you make, it means the more people that you're blessing, that you're helping,
More cells.
and not being focused on how big is your check, but it's the more you make, the more people you're helping.
You know, this is, you know, as physicians, we're well compensated. We put a lot of years in, invest a lot of time, money, effort, knowledge into our careers. And we're always paid, you know, because of what we're doing to help other people have a better quality of life, better quality of health. So I've never had a problem with being compensated for this. We spend a lot of time educating people, and we really care about the results that they get. But I will tell you, I didn't join this for the business. I joined as an associate to get the best price. You know, I kind of knew the drill. And I told my sponsor, I am not going to any meetings. I'm not learning the secret handshake. Don't bug me. I'm not going to, I just wanted my husband to get better. But oh my gosh, you guys, thank God I did, because 6 months into it, I realized as a physician, I had a moral obligation to let people know that this existed. What they did with that information was totally up to them. I was just going to be the messenger, but it has totally changed our lives. And just like Nancy was saying with the residual and the ongoing, you have the opportunity here to change people's lives and to create for yourself a life that other people just dream of. And, I think one of the things that does help us look more youthful is joy. We love what we're doing. So yeah, thank you for that.
That's it. So
Well,
glad y'all came on.
Yeah. So guys, thank you. Everybody, we love doing this. It's such an honor to do this when we're at convention and people are so thankful for this. We kind of think sometimes that we keep repeating the same thing, but we always know that there's new people going to be here. And we want to ask you to get back to the person that invited you to the call. Make a decision. Do something. Like Dr. Walker said, it's a little bit of money. And if it does what we say it will do, and stay on it 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Don't give up on your body being able to fix itself. But this will bless other people. And like Dr. Walker said also, the stress, that's where we were 7 years ago, was a boatload of stress from not having any income. And so this has definitely been a blessing for us. So guys, next week we have Dr. Aaron Kaufman.
All right.
And then we have after that, Carolyn Hoffman. So we've got some great people lined up. Please come back every Friday. Yeah, right. Kaufman and Hoffman. And so guys, thank you so much. We appreciate it. God bless.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank everybody.
Enjoy your
Thank you so
weekend.
much.